Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we have something special for you. A full recording of a Zoom session with one of my students as we prep for the ACT math test. During this session, we tackled various math problems and reviewed essential strategies. Whether you're struggling with certain topics or just looking for some extra practice, this session has something for you. You'll get an inside look at our interactive approach and hopefully pick up some useful tips and techniques along the way. Make sure to have your notebook and pencil ready, and feel free to pause the video whenever you need to work through the problems on your own. If you find this session helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. All right, let's dive into our ACT math prep session. Enjoy!
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do -7 plus 12. And that will give us what? -7 plus 12.
Mm, um,
So when you have a negative and a positive, you take the difference of the numbers, okay?
it'll still come out negative, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So here, right, we have -7 plus 12. When you take the difference of the two, you get what? We get 5, right?
Yes, man, it's gonna be -5.
Okay, well, for in this case, right now, it's going to be 5 because look at the 12. It's larger than the 7, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
since the 12 is positive and the 7 is negative, we take the sign of the larger number, right? Okay, so we have, so 7, the difference of -7 and 12 is 5. And it's going to be a +5 because that 12 is larger than the number 7. So the 12 is carrying the positive sign here. Okay. So we have 5. And then let's bring down the rest of the problem, minus a -3. Okay. So tell me here, can you tell me here, we have 5 minus a -3. So how will we solve that? Now, true enough, if you had a calculator, you could use the calculator, but I want to see, let's work these without the calculator for now.
I don't have my calculator.
Okay, but that's great. Okay, well, good. So that's good. I don't want us to use the calculator right now. So that's good. That's a good deal. So if you were solving this manually, what would that be? 5 minus a -3. So what we do here, Joshua, we'll take the two signs, since these two signs, so if you have 5 minus a negative, that's like a double negative. And what we've been taught in math is when you have two negatives here in math, they cancel out, or they become the opposite. So you take these two negative signs that are together, like so, like this, and they become positive. So basically, 5 minus a -3 is the same thing as 5 plus 3.
It's gonna be 8.
Absolutely. Let me get this pen working a little bit better than what it is. So 5 plus 3, as you said, it equals 8. 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. Okay, let me make this look a little bit better. I don't like the way it looks. Okay, let me get this a little bit thicker. All right, so 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. Can you see that better?
Yes, ma'am, I can see it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's number 1. Okay, and if you have your pencil and paper, feel free to take notes on this. That's what I'd like for you to do.
Yes, ma'am, I have been.
Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to move over to number 2. Now, number 2 says, if 5 pencils cost $3, how much do 12 pencils cost? Okay, so what we're going to do here, Joshua, we're going to set this up as a proportion. Okay, so basically we're going to look at the cost. Put it back on pen. The cost of the pencils, and we're going to compare that to the number of pencils. Okay. I'll go back to this one as far as thickness. Okay, so here we have if 5 pencils, so that's the number of pencils. If 5 pencils cost $3, okay, how much do 12 pencils cost? So we have 12 pencils here, and we want to know the cost of that, and we'll use X to represent the cost. Okay, so just take a look again at how I'm setting this problem up. We're comparing the cost to the number. You know, we're looking at the cost and the number of pencils. So we already know that $3, okay, if $3 is the amount of how much 5 pencils cost, we want to know X, that's the missing variable. How much does 12 pencils cost? Okay, and we can solve for X. How would we solve for X? We would solve for X by cross multiplying. I'm trying to see if I have another color here. If not, that's not a problem. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply, cross multiply. This is how we solve for our proportions, okay? So when I multiply 5 times X, I get 5X is equal to, let's cross multiply 3 times 12, and we get 36. Okay, so now we're going to solve for X. Okay, can you tell me how will we solve for X here, Joshua?
You have to get the X by itself. So you would since the 5 and the X are connected, that means it's multiplication. So you
Yeah,
use the
yeah,
division.
that's absolutely correct. So we're going to solve for X by dividing both sides by 5. And when we do that, we know that 5X divided by 5 is equal to X. And then 36 divided by 5, well, we know 5 goes into 36 7 times. 7 times 5 is 35. When you take 35 from 36, you're left with 1. Okay, we're going to do a decimal here since we're dealing with dollars, you know. And I'll go ahead and minimize it a little bit, and I'll work it out here to the side just so you can see it as I talk through it. So we have 7, 35. We subtract, we get 1. We're going to add a decimal place, take that decimal place up to the numerator, bring down that 0, add a 0, bring it down. 5 goes into 10 twice. So there we have it. So X is $7, and of course we know money, we have 2 decimal places. So we $7.20. Okay, you have any questions with that?
No, ma'am.
Any questions with the way I saw it? Okay, great. All right, so now we're going to move on to number 3. And we're going to, it says solve for X. And our equation is here, 3X minus 5 is equal to 2X plus 4. Can you tell me what steps we're going to use to work this problem, Joshua? That's a 2.
Look, I know what it is. I feel like we just did this in algebra 2.
Okay.
What is it called? Is it the quadratic? Oh my God.
Okay. Now this one, this is not, now we're not going to use the quadratic formula for this one. However, we will, number 5, that we will do the quadratic formula. Okay. So for here, we're solving x. Okay. And to solve for x, what we're going to do is combine our x terms. Okay. So we have a 3x here, and we have a 2x here. So we're going to combine like terms first of all. So to combine the 2x and the 3x and the 2x, we're gonna, let's move it over to the right side. So we're gonna subtract 2x from this side to move it over to the opposite side. So 2x minus 2x leaves us with 0, of course. And on the right side of the equal sign, we're left with a what? A 4. So we bring that down. But remember, we're doing it, we have an equation here, so you have to keep an equation balanced. So we're going to we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. So whatever you do on one side of the equal sign, you have to do it on both sides, okay? So if we take 2x from 3x, we're simply left with 1x or x. Okay, that's how we keep our equations balanced. And then we're going to bring down our minus 5. Okay? Okay. You have any questions, Joshua?
No, ma'am. I was about to say the next step, but
okay, yes. Go ahead and share with me the next step.
You will, after you bring the 5 down, then you since it's subtraction, you will do addition on both sides.
Absolutely correct. So we're going to add 5 to both sides. So what's left on the left side of the equal sign? What's left over here?
X.
X, that's right, because this cancels out. And what do we have on the right side?
9.
Absolutely correct. That's it. Okay, so do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to move on to number 4. Okay, so here they're asking us to simplify 2 cubed raised to the 2nd power. Okay, now there are a couple of ways we can solve for this. One way is you can say, okay, well, I want to multiply my exponents. Okay, so you can say 2 raised to the what? Well, 3 times 2 is what? 6.
6.
That's correct. So you can solve it this way. 3 times 2 is 6. So now we have 2 raised to the 6th power. And what does that say? 2 raised to the 6th power is, you're saying 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's right. Right. So you're just, well, here we're multiplying 2 times itself 6 times. And that will give you the answer. Okay. Or what I would recommend this way first is because, a lot of times you go, well, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is, you will have to go through that process. Or you can do it this way. Based on the order of operation, simplify what's in parentheses first. Okay? So that's 2 to the 3rd power. What is 2 to the 3rd power?
The 3rd power.
What is this?
8.
I'm sorry.
It'll be 6.
2. Well, let's break it down. Let me erase this right here. Okay. So let's look at 2 to the 3rd power. 2 raised to the 3rd power. That's just like saying 2 times 2 times 2. So you're multiplying 2 by itself 3 times. So what's 2 times 2?
4.
And what's 4 times 2?
8.
That's it. So that's how we solve that. So 4 times 2, so that's 8. All right. So now that we've simplified what's in parentheses first, now we're left with 8 raised to what? Don't forget about this one. 8 raised to the second power. And 8 to the second power is the same thing as 8 times 8, which is what? 8 times 8 is 64.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but then I said 12 for some reason.
Oh yeah, no problem. No problem. Not a problem at all. So that's how we work those out. So whichever way is simplest for you, if you want to first do like what I have up here, you can say, well, I'll multiply 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And you can go through the math. You can do 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2, 16, 16 times 2, 32, and 32 times 2, see 64. You're gonna come up with the same answer, Joshua. Okay? So whichever one is simplest for you, you can first multiply the exponents that are right next to each other. They have to be right next to each other, as it's shown here. Or you can perform the operation that's within the parentheses first, which is 2 cubed, and then you get 8, and then you raise 8 to the outside exponent, 2 to the second power, and you'll get 64. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so do you have any questions, any more questions about number 4?
No, ma'am. I have a better understanding of it.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I have a better understanding about it.
Okay, awesome. You have a better understanding. Great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the quadratic formula. Okay, now you mentioned this earlier. The problem says solve for x. And we have here x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. Okay, so how will we solve for x using the quadratic formula? Well, first of all, we must know what the quadratic formula is, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so here is that formula. And for the ACT test, I don't think they're going to provide the formulas. They may, but if not, we want to be sure that we know it by memory. Okay, so for the quadratic formula, yes, this is the formula. It is, I tend to write, x is equal to negative b as in boy plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now you may say, oh, that's quite a bit. Well, it's not too bad. So what we need to do is identify what these variables are. Like, what is b? What is a? What is c? Okay, so what we do is, let's look at the original problem here. A squared, x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. Well, these variables, a, b here, and the a and the c, they are the coefficients of different terms in this formula. So when you look at the x squared, the coefficient here is understood to be 1, correct? Well,
Yes.
So that is your a. That is your a coefficient. And then your b, let me see, let me pull this down and make sure you can see it. So your b, right here, that's a. Can you see the a that I wrote above the number 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay, so your next coefficient, this -4, that's your B. And these signs are very important, Joshua. So it's not just 4, but it's -4. That's your B. And your C is the -5. Okay, so once you've identified what these variables are, then you just go in and plug in those numbers. You go ahead and substitute the numbers for the variable. So I'm going to come over all the way over here and do X is equal to. So for negative B, now look at that. Remember, this B is saying negative B. So X is equal to a negative. What is B, Joshua?
It's -4.
It's negative 4. So yeah, so we're going to do X is, we're going to substitute for B. So B is -4 plus or minus. Let me go ahead and write this square root. So now we have B squared. So again, B is a -4 squared minus 4. What is A?
1x.
1. Well, it's just the coefficient,
yeah.
right? It's the number. So it's 1. So that's going to be 4 times 1 times, and what is our C?
-5.
C is -5. Okay, and don't forget the denominator here, all over 2A. And again, A is what? Is 1. So all over 2 times 1. Okay. For my pen is trying to lock up here, so let me see what's going on here. Okay. See that again. There we go. There we go. Okay. So now let's go ahead and evaluate further. So we have X is equal to. So Joshua, we have a negative times a -4. What will be the output for that?
A negative times a negative.
Mm-hmm. So a negative times a negative is what?
Positive.
Absolutely. So that -4 becomes positive. So negative times a -4, that's a +4. Mm-hmm. Okay, plus or minus.
Ma'am?
Well, I'm moving forward. Did you have a question?
Oh, no, ma'am. I thought you
Okay.
had said.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. No, I didn't. So let's keep on going. So we have that now, plus or minus. Now let's break this down. We have -4 squared. That's the first term under our square root here. So what's -4 squared? That's the same. Mm-hmm.
Isn't like, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Oh, no problem. So
it's just the same thing as we did earlier with
that's good.
4. Number question 4.
Mm-hmm. Right. So -4 squared is the same thing as saying -4 times -4.
It'll be like
Mm-hmm.
-8.
Well, 4. So -4 times -4, that will give us, right, a negative times a negative is a what?
Positive.
Positive. So our answer is going to be positive. So now we're just looking at, okay, well, what's 4 times 4? That's 16. Okay. All right. So -4 times -4 is a positive 16. Now let's take a look at the remainder of this portion of the term. Now we have -4 times 1 times a negative 5. Okay, so negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times a negative 5 will give us positive, because a negative times a negative, that would give us a positive 20. I'm going to break that down over here to the side. So we have, say it again, Joshua.
No, I just said okay.
Okay. So first we're going to look at this. We have negative, so minus 4. That's the same thing as negative 4, right? So minus 4 times 1. So minus 4 times 1. That gives us a negative 4, because a negative times a positive is a negative. Okay? So now we're going to take that minus negative 4 times, you could do the dot or you could do the parentheses, it means the same thing, times a negative 5. Well, we know a negative times a negative will give us a positive, so that's going to equal 20, but that's a positive 20, correct? So that's why I added 20 to the 16. Okay, and then that's all over.
Thank you for breaking that down.
Oh, sure thing. You're welcome. So now what we're going to do, don't forget the denominator, 2 times 1, right here. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay. All right, so now we're going to continue to evaluate even further. Let me get rid of that little piece. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend it to the right here. So I'm going to do equals. Okay, so we're still doing the x is equal to this, so we're breaking it down. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and combine further. So we have 4, that's a positive 4, plus or minus the square root of, well, what's 16 plus 20?
It'd be 36.
That's correct, 36. All over 2. All divided by 2. I'm going to go to the right even further. Let me see. Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's break this down. Now, we have 4 plus or minus the square root of 36. Well, what's the square root of 36?
Isn't it 6?
That's correct. I'm going to bring that to the next line here. So now we have 4. A bit smaller. Okay. So now we have 4 plus or minus, as you said, 6. All divided by 2. So now you may wonder, what is that plus or minus? Well, that plus or minus is letting us know that we have 2 separate equations. Okay? So let's break that down. Let's break it down. So now we have 4 plus 6 divided by 2. And we have 4 minus 6 divided by 2. Okay? So what's 4 plus 6? We know that's 10. Let's do this first one. 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 divided by 2. We know that gives us 5. Okay, so we got that one done. So now let's look at the 4 minus 6. Well, 4 minus 6 is a negative 2. Okay, you take the difference, but it's negative because that 6 is larger than the 2. So we're going to take the sign, which is a negative, of the larger number. So 4 minus 6 is negative 2. divided by 2. So what's negative 2 divided by 2? Well, so a negative divided by a positive is always negative. Yes,
So,
that's it. So -1.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so okay. Okay, you have a question?
No, man. I was gonna say -1, then I started yawning.
Okay. Oh yes. Awesome. Awesome. So we have that negative, -1.
And that's the final answer.
That's the final answer. So we have two answers here, which are what? It's -1,
-1 and
comma 5.
5.
Yes. So
My
-1,
bad.
comma 5. So those are our outputs. 4 plus 6 is 10 divided by 2. We got 5 here. And then we have 4 minus 6, which is -2 divided by 2 is -1. Okay, so before I move on, Joshua, do you have any additional questions?
No, man. I understand it.
Okay.
Sometimes it could have got confusing, but I understand it. The way you broke it down, though.
Okay, wonderful. You say you understand the way I broke it down? Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, great, great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to number 6. I did take up quite a bit of space, so what I'm just going to do is just, because it doesn't take much to solve. It doesn't take much to solve number 6, okay? So I'll just draw this line here. Now it says for us to simplify 6x squared divided by 9x.
Mm.
Okay, so how would you solve that, Joshua?
It basically looks like division.
You're absolutely correct. It is division. So let's start with our coefficient, which are the numbers that's preceding the variables x. So we have a 6 and a 9. Well, how can we divide that? Well, we can look at it, it's a fraction, it's just like 6 over 9. So what we like to do is put it in the lowest term. Okay, so we have 6 and 9. Let's take a look for a greatest common factor between the two numbers, 6 and 9. Well, I know the greatest common factor of 6 and 9 is 3. Both 6 and 9 are divisible by 3.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I divide 3 into 6, I'm left with what?
3 into 6.
So 6 divided by 3 is what?
2.
2.
To the
And
bottom.
now with the 9, I
It'll
divide,
be 3.
there you go, 3. Awesome. So now we have our numbers taken care of, our coefficient. So 2/3 is our simplified because they did ask us to simplify. So we have already simplified our numbers down to 2/3. Now, how do we simplify our variables? X squared over x. Well, there is a rule, okay, the quotient rule, where you subtract your exponents when you are dividing, okay? So in our numerator here, our exponent is 2. What is our exponent in our denominator, Joshua, for x?
Denominator for x?
Then what is our exponent? So in the numerator, okay, in the numerator we have 6x squared, okay? So up here, now this is the numerator, and our denominator is here at the bottom, the
Yes, ma'am.
9x, okay? So taking a look at our numerator, our exponent for in our numerator is what? It's 2.
2.
Okay, so x squared, so that exponent is a 2.
Mhm.
So in our denominator, what is our exponent for the x in our denominator?
There isn't. Wait, is it 1?
There you go. Absolutely. It's understood to be 1. We typically don't write x to the first power or
Mhm.
x to the 1 power, but it is 1. So
This
you
is
can
visible.
Yeah, so you can visualize that 1, or you can just write it here. So the quotient rule says that when you're dividing exponents, you subtract them. So we have x squared divided by x to the first. We're going to subtract our exponents, and what do we get? So 2 minus 1 gives us
It'll be 1.
1. So we'll have x to the first power, or simply x.
Just yeah.
Just x. There you go. Just x. And we place that in the numerator, okay? Because it's positive, and when we get to negative exponents, we'll deal with that when we get there. So yeah, so this is our answer. This is our simplified answer, 2x over 3. Or you can say 2/3 x. That's our answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions about that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, let's move right along. Okay, read number 7 for me, Joshua, if you don't mind.
Find the slope of the line passing through the points 2, 3, and 4, 7.
Okay, great. So we're looking for the slope. Okay, now they're telling us that the slope of a line passing through those points. So those are coordinate points, 2, 3. That's your, so 2 is your first x coordinate, okay? So that 2 is like your x sub 1, comma, and that 3 is your y. That's your first y coordinate. And I'll put it in parentheses, okay? So taking a look at 4, 7, that 4, that's your second x coordinate. And that 7 is your second y coordinate. Okay. Okay. So now that we have that established and we, figured out that, so now what we need to know is, what is the formula for the slope of a line? Can you recall that, Joshua?
Formula for a slope of a line?
The formula for the slope of a line.
No, ma'am.
Okay, no problem. Not a problem. So here's the thing. I'm going to give it to you right now. Okay. And the formula for the slope of a line is M, and M represents slope.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You remembering it now? Oh, I look, I get it. I know sometimes you forget it. And when you see it, oh yeah, I remember. Not a problem. So the slope is what?
M. Oh, the slope.
That's right. M is equal to, do you remember it now?
Wasn't it like no, it's not coming back.
No problem. No problem. So it's y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x, the second x coordinate, minus the first x coordinate. Okay, so that's the formula. And
Is it
all we
okay
have to
to say
do
that
now.
It's okay to say I don't remember that formula. I remember something else though. It was like
Oh, okay. Okay. Now there are other formulas. Now you may be, I'm just going to throw this out there. thinking about the point slope formula, which is y is equal to mx plus b. Maybe you're thinking that, I don't know, but there are different formulas that involves the slope out there. So when they ask the question, find the slope, and they give you two sets of points. So you have here x sub 1, the first and second x coordinates, and then the first and second y coordinates. This is the formula that you would use to solve for the slope, okay? So now what we're going to do is simply plug in our values. So the second x coordinate is what? I'm sorry, the second y coordinate is 7, okay? So we have 7 minus, what's the first one? It's 3.
3.
Why am I doing this? I do what I'm supposed to. So that's 3 divided by our second x coordinate is 4 minus our first x coordinate, which is 2. Okay. And when we solve, 7 minus 3 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. So that gives us a slope of 2. And that's our answer. Do you have any questions about that, Joshua?
No, man, it seems simple. I'm just surprised I didn't remember that formula.
That's not a problem. And what I'll do to help you prepare for your next ACT test, I'm going to give you the list of formulas. I'm going to give you a formula sheet to study and memorize.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, you'll be fine. All right, let's move on.
Oh, thank you, by the way.
Okay, can you say that again, Joshua?
I said thank you.
Oh, yes, sure, you're welcome. You are so very welcome. All right, so let's move on to number 8, where we are to find the distance between points 1 and point. Find the distance between the points 1, 2 and 4, 6. Okay, so for this one, we need to know the distance formula. We need to know the distance formula. Okay, so do you recall the distance formula?
No.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I mean, it's a whole lot of formulas you need to remember in math, so I totally get it. So let's go ahead and let me give that to you here. So that formula is D, which of course stands for distance, is equal to the square root of the second x coordinate minus the first x coordinate squared plus the second y coordinate minus the first y coordinate squared. Okay, so this is the formula. D is equal to the square root of y sub 2 minus, x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. So what we need to do here, Joshua, is just go in and fill in the data points. So fill in that. So distance is equal to. So what is our second x coordinate?
4.
That's correct. And our first one?
1.
Is 1. So we have 4 minus 1 squared plus our second y coordinate, which is
Yeah, the second y it's 6.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's 6 minus the first y coordinate.
And oh, my bad, my bad. I'm still writing. That's 2.
That's correct. And then we're gonna square that. Okay, so now we just go ahead and follow through. 4 minus 1, that's 3, and we're gonna square that. Plus 6 minus 4, 6 minus 2 is 4. And we're gonna square that, okay? So in solving, 3 squared will give us what, Joshua? 3 squared.
9.
That's correct. 3
Oh,
squared is 9.
I was thinking too hard about that one.
But no problem. Plus 4 squared. What is 4 squared?
16.
That's correct. 16. So now we have the square root of when you add 9 and 16.
It would be 5, 25.
That's it, 25. That's right. So what's the square root of 25?
5.
That's it. That's the distance. So that's the distance between those two coordinate points. All
That
right.
was really,
Say again, Joshua.
that, that was pretty easy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, you can really get it as long as you know the formulas, and just go through the steps. You'll have it. Like you said, it's pretty easy. 9. If a right triangle has legs of length 6 and 8, what is the length of the hypotenuse? Okay, so to solve for this, always remember this formula. So if you're looking at a right triangle, and I'm gonna draw one right quick here. This is our right triangle. That denotes a right triangle. So if the lengths are the legs, these are the legs 6, and this leg is 8. What is the length of the hypotenuse? The hypotenuse is always, that's a question mark right there, not a 2. The hypotenuse is the slanted angle, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? Or I could use an X for that, or another, or C. So the formula that we use to solve to find the hypotenuse of a right triangle, remember this formula, C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared, okay? So
Yes,
that
ma'am.
would be the formula to remember. Okay, so we're gonna so what is A and B? Well, A and B are either of the two legs. This could be A, this could be B, but the hypotenuse is always C,
See,
always. So let's solve. We have C squared plus C squared is equal to A squared. So A, we'll make that 8. So that's 8 squared
and 6 squared.
plus 6 squared. This screen is not right. Okay, so 8 squared is what?
Hey,
8
my
times
bad.
8, which is 64.
Where you at? Th- Is that 36?
That's right. 6 times 6 is 36.
I was making sure. Like,
And we're taking the square root. So now we have c squared. The square root of c squared is equal to the square root of, when you add 64 and 36, you get 100, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now when we take the square root of both sides, the square root of c squared is c. All right? The square root of
Yes,
c
ma'am.
squared, yes. So the square root of c squared is c. And then the square root of 100 is what?
Square root of 1. 10.
That's it, 10. That is
I
absolutely
was about to say something else, but I was like, that's definitely 10.
That's it. So that's the answer, and we're done for today. That is it. C is equal to 10. So with our next session, Joshua will pick up for with numbers 10 through 15. So that's
Yes.
what an additional 6 problems that we will cover in detail. So tell me, do you have any questions or any feedback that you'd like to share?
No questions. But I got a better understanding though.
Awesome.
Yes,
That is great. That is definitely what we're looking for. You having a better understanding of how to work through these problems.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that is it for today.